Stockton. Thank you for tuning in to Divine Numerology with the voice of Stockton, KXVS. This is Darius Oliver, your host, and we're here to talk about numbers today and how they have big impact in our life and what they do. So for those of you who have tuned in today, you know what numerology is if you've seen the show before. And for those of you who this is your first time checking it out, I'm going to touch base into, go a little bit into what it is and kind of give you a little background so that it's a little bit more understanding on there. So numerology is the study of numbers and how they relate to our world around us, what they tell us about our cycles, hidden cycles, cycles in our lives around people, how numbers are measurements of things that we do. And they show us qualities, not so much only quantities. Meaning, when we're talking about 1 through 9, every number of 1 through 9 has a symbolic meaning to it. 1 is confidence and creativity, basic meaning. 2 is cooperation and balance. 3 is expression and sensitivity. 4 is process and stability. 5 is freedom and discipline. 6 is vision and acceptance. 7 is trust and introspection, trust and openness. And then 8 is abundance and power. And then 9 is wisdom and integrity. And it's also known as the humanitarian number. But the thing about these numbers is they're more than just symbols like, oh, okay, the number 9 is this and 8 is this. Like I was mentioning, they're measurements of energy. They're measurements of frequencies. Just like we use numbers to measure light waves and sound waves and the music score and the hertz, 432 hertz, all these different numbers that we use to measure frequencies and waves. So too, we use these numbers in numerology to measure the frequencies of our tendencies and our characteristics and our qualities as people and the activities that we engage in and the way we respond and react in certain situations. What energies are we giving out? For instance, if 3 deals with expression and sensitivity, then whenever we see someone expressing themselves, whether that's talking, communicating, writing, or anything that involves expression, whether that's dancing, telling a story, they're doing the 3. 4 is process and stability, structure, and organization. If we see someone filing papers, if we see someone making a plan, writing out a schedule, they're doing the 4. And at the same time, they're doing the 3, because 3 is expression, 4 is structure. They're using the 3 to do the 4. They're combining the 2. Whenever you have someone who's doing an analyzing, they're thinking deeply, they're meditating, they're doing the 7. That's what 7 is. And we got these symbols that we call numbers because we looked at what it is that it represents, and we say, oh, okay, whenever someone's talking or communicating, this is not literally exactly how it happened. This is just a way of explaining it. So whenever someone's talking or speaking or writing, they're expressing themselves. What are we going to do? Let's call that a 3, and let's make this symbol, and we'll call it a 3, and it'll represent this activity here or this situation, this circumstance. And, whenever someone's really good at that, then this is how we'll be able to tell how what the potential of them showing this particular quality in their life is. Or when it comes to 9, helping out people, working with the public. That's how it works, numerology. And when it comes to decoding personalities and traits that we find in other people, what we found is it's normally found in the day of birth, the month of birth, and the year of birth, adding all 3 of these together, and it tells us the dominant life lesson, the life path that this person is here to follow and to learn and to develop into. It's almost kind of like a song that say, for instance, you're talking to a songwriter and they write a song for you and they say, here, I wrote this song for you. This is your song that you need to study and learn and read and memorize. In a way, that's your life path. You have to study and learn and read that life path, that song, so that you can sing it. So then we have, from the birthday, we have the life path, but then we go and take the full name and we add that all together. And what we get from that is what's called your expression or destiny number. And from adding the entire full name that you're given at birth, the one that's on the birth certificate, we're actually able to tell who you are. Like, for instance, if the date of birth tells us the actual lyrics for this song that was written, then the full name tells us who it is that's going to be singing that song. And so it's just like this too. You can have 5 people with the same life path, but have a different names. The names equal something completely different. And it'll be similar to Michael Jackson, someone writing a song, and Michael Jackson's version of Thriller versus Neo's version of Thriller versus anyone else's version of Thriller. It's the same song, but sung by a different person. It's like covers, people doing covers for different musical songs. And that's a big part of how that relates and how we can explain it. It's just a way to help understand it. The actual performance of the song, say for instance, you were to sing, someone like another celebrity took a song that Neo wrote and they sang it, their performance is going to be different from Neo's because they're 2 different people. They're probably both going to sound really good, but it's just going to be different. The performance is also having a measurement too. So here we add the life path plus the full name number, the expression number, and we get that performance number. Then we add this person's life path plus their expression number, and we get that person's performance number. And these are 3 of the really important numbers that we look at in numerology. Very basic. And if you want to know how to add those up, you just take your name. If you're trying to add up your name and you look at the alphabet, this is one way of doing it. There's several different systems to numerology that date long before this system that I'm mentioning to you right now, such as Chaldean numerology. That goes thousands of years before modern numerology. But just for a basic, just for a beginner, the most simple way of adding up your name is to take the alphabet and think of the numbers, think of the letters as coming in order from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then repeat it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that would be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Those are the first 9. Then you start over. J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 again. Then S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. That's 1 through 8 from that point. So that is a really easy way to, if you want to find out what your names actually mean, what they come down to as far as totaling out. I actually have a book here that's really good. It's a numerology book written by Joseph Gabby, and he's actually a doctor. I got this book some time ago, last year, and there was quite a bit that I learned from it. It's just pretty insightful. It's called The Blueprint of Your Soul. Discover yourself and your blueprint destiny. And this is really good because Okay, hold it up a little bit more. This book is really good because what it does is it talks about how to heal the inner child through numerology. And that's something that is really important nowadays because we got so much stuff going on. And we're dealing with a lot of different energies, and we're dealing with a lot of things coming up from our lives as younger. We have, a lot of spiritual workers can relate to me on this. And not just spiritual workers, but people in general. You probably notice a lot of issues coming up, bringing up things from the past that need to be dealt with, bringing up things that need to be addressed and faced so that you can grow and accept those shadow dark parts of yourself and move forward. And this is very normal in the time that we're living in right now because we're getting shifts. We're moving into a higher vibration of frequency. Even numerology says this big time, especially the next upcoming years until 2024. We're going to be seeing some really big shifts. And so it's really important to give some attention to our inner child so that we can really address and take care of these things. With that being said, the way that this gentleman, Joseph Gabby, presents the information of numerology is he takes it each number at a time and he looks at each number in your chart. So he looks not only at the life path, he doesn't look just at the life path, he looks at the expression and he looks at the combination of the performance number. And he also takes a look at the other hidden numbers that we're going to talk about at a later time. And these when I say numbers, more so the categories. So those are the first three categories that I'm sharing. But he goes over a lot of those. So for those of you who are interested in delving more deeply into numerology and want to know a good book to check out, this is definitely one that I recommend too. Very good. He's actually a doctor, been a practicing doctor for many years, and decided to leave that corporate lifestyle to pursue his real passion, which is numerology. And I can totally relate to that because I wasn't a doctor, but I used to work in the field of sales and marketing, and I used to promote all kinds of different things until I left that to pursue numerology full time, just like this gentleman who wrote the book. And it's funny because at the time that I was thinking of leaving my previous career, that's when I was introduced to this book and heard his story. So it's kind of giving me the green light to go for it and do it. And so I'm kind of sharing that experience with you so that you guys can check this out. If you guys have any questions about what it means for you when you actually add up your numbers and when you actually do these calculations, like, oh man, I got a 5 or I got a 6, 8 or a 3, and you want to know more about what it means, message me, contact me, message me on Facebook. Go to Darius Oliver on my Facebook page, message me and ask me. Or if you want an in-depth reading, to see exactly how your numbers interact with your life path and how does the expression interact with the year and all these different types of situations, also let me know because we can give you some really good insight into how this all works. So we're going to go to a quick break. We'll be right back, and you guys have a awesome time. Just stay tuned. We'll be right back to you guys.
Live in the flesh. voice of Stockton.
Boo, 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 boo. Live in the flesh. KXVS Radio, the voice of Stockton. KXVS 92.1 FM.
Hello. Thank you for tuning in. We're back from our break. This is Darius with Divine Numerology, and we have some awesome guests with us today. We have a beautiful wife and husband couple. We have Athea and James Paris, founders of Paris Normal and Under the Moon Paranormal, as well as co-founders of San Joaquin County Valley Paranormal Research. Did I say that right?
Yeah, San Joaquin Valley Paranormal Research.
Awesome.
Yes.
And Athea, she's actually a clairvoyant empath with medium abilities. And she's here today with her husband, who's going to explain to us the technical aspect of the paranormal research and what exactly it entails. So, first of all, I just want to say thanks for being on the show. Welcome.
Oh, thank you for having us on the show.
Yes,
thank you.
Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of our guests out there are wondering, oh, is Darius bringing in the Ghostbusters or what?
Well, I got the shirt on today.
So look, you know what? We made a phone call, and I needed to use my phone. I was like, somebody, who you gonna call? I was like, okay, I'm gonna call Athea because she's a Ghostbuster. So, but yeah. So what exactly is what is the paranormal?
The paranormal is it's kind of vast anymore. It involves from what you do with numerology to even cryptozoology to the study of spirits to just any kind of phenomenon that is out of the normal realm of what we consider phenomenon to be.
Okay, interesting.
As a clairvoyant, what I get is I hold pictures. Mainly I read pictures, and it's of people who have passed away. And I'll get images in my mind's eye, and I'll relay that to whoever my client is and what I'm feeling from that person. The empathic part comes in that I can connect with people, and I can feel what they're feeling, and I can connect with the dead and be able to tell how they've passed away.
Okay.
Just recently, in the last month that I've been here, I started working with Big Dog Paranormal out of Ohio. And Eddie Barbaric, I'm not sure of his last name, but he had sent me a picture. They call him Big Dog. That's just easier. He sent me a picture of a client, and he had asked me, what I was going to get, and he's like, I have some questions I want to ask. And I said, no. I said, I have to hang up.
Interesting.
I have to write you now. And I hung up, and I wrote him. And I told him how she had been killed, which she was cut from one side of her neck to the other, and all the details of what had happened with her body, because she was letting me feel that.
Wow.
And when he got that message, he was like instantly calling me. He said, you didn't even give me a chance to ask any questions. He said, wow, I can't even begin to believe it. And he said, and I'm a skeptic. He said, so to convince me, he said, now her and I were friends. He said, so I want to ask you a question. When I feel that she's here and I see her, where do you see in your mind's eye me seeing her? And I said, well, I see this in your hallway. I said, but there's like this rug. I said, it's not a rug though, and there's blue trim around it, and there's a mirror in that hallway. And where you sit in the living room, there's a window. And I've seen it in so many cases where a mirror facing a window, it kind of causes a porthole, or two mirrors facing each other kind of cause a porthole. Make it easier for the spirit to come through.
Interesting.
And he said, he was like blown away. He said, oh my gosh. He said, yeah. He said, it's actually a rug, not a rug. He said, it's a blanket I have down as a rug with blue trim around it. I said, well, I knew it wasn't exactly a rug, but I knew you had it on the floor. And so then the medium part comes in that sometimes I am blessed where they'll come through and I actually see them, like I'm looking at you right now. And usually when that happens, if they've been killed or something tragic has happened to them, the best way I explain it to people is it is a lot like the TV show Ghost Whisperer. They first come through and I'll feel all the bad first.
Interesting.
But as they keep coming through, I'll keep getting other parts, and then it keeps getting a little bit better. But empathically, I've been able to tell a woman, and I didn't have this information, where her daughter had been shot, even in the body. You know, I've helped find a missing person that was only found by their dental records in North Carolina. I've worked several cold cases and had to sign non-disclosure papers. And as for James, he's my ghost hunter. He's my paranormal investigator. I'm his clairvoyant, but he's my investigator, and he keeps me safe.
The hunter.
And he himself, he's Cherokee, so he's very spiritual.
Nice.
And he has a great ability with the technical side, which is wonderful because I don't.
Okay.
But I have woke up in bed and found like 5 tripods over top of me, you know, from him trying to adjust IR extenders and cameras and lights.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you carry the vacuum and she tells you where they're at. Like,
Yeah.
right here. Point the vacuum right here. Get that going. He's right there. He's right there. Don't let him get away. Look, he's running on the couch. He's right.
Like that Mario game.
And hoping that the vacuum is on.
Yeah. So tell me, a little bit more about your part in this. Because this sounds like very involved. Sounds very involved, and it's different levels of awareness and different levels of consciousness. And what exactly part do you play in it?
Well, like she said, a technical manager or equipment manager. Just basically setting the toys up and playing.
Okay. Cool.
Knowing how they work.
So how is it that these cameras are able to detect these spirits?
You should tell them about the first investigation we did with our team under the moon in Sacramento at this grocery outlet, and what happened to our cameras.
Yeah, on that. To answer your question, I'm not sure exactly how. They just do.
It just works.
It just works. And in case she's talking about, we had cameras set up in the basement. Well, security cameras. The whole DVR itself had shut off. And as we were going upstairs, me and our guy, we noticed that. We walked back down to see if anything came unplugged and anything like that. Nothing was unplugged, and there was still video that was being recorded.
Wow.
Even though that whole DVR was completely shut off.
Everything. The cameras were shut off. Everything was shut off, and we didn't lose any time. It's still recorded.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Wow. And how did that affect you?
Well, it made one newbie who wanted to come investigate so bad. He had to leave. He started to feel really nauseous, and he had to leave. We've had cases like that where James has even gotten really nauseous, and this was with San Joaquin Valley. We were at Atwater at the Air Force Museum, and we had been locked down in there. And James was like, "Oh, I'm getting sick. I'm not feeling okay." And later we go over the audio and we're listening. And right after I say to him, "Oh, I hope you don't puke," you hear a voice say, "He's going to puke."
Oh, wow.
You hear the spirit say that.
Wow.
We even recorded an argument between 3 spirits that night.
Audio?
Yeah, audio.
And, wow, that's crazy.
And then James had set up the cameras where the B-52 bomber was. He had one under the one side, the left wing, and one under the right to record what all was going either way for.
Yeah.
And we're all inside the museum. When we look at the footage, there's like 4 or 5 little shadows. They all
Just
climb
walking.
up into the B-52 bomber.
Wow.
And we're like, oh, wow, you know, because, I mean, the guy locked us in.
Wow.
It was a real wow moment.
So, you know, the word that's coming to me, and I'm sure my the listeners, our audience, our guests, they're like, oh, man, well, how did you discover that you have these gifts?
Well, I was actually really little. I was about, well, before I was 3, I had quit breathing. And a gentleman on the volunteer ambulance, he got me to breathing again. And then after that, when I was 3, I started, I met my guide, and that's Sarah. And she's with me all the time. I made Mom and Dad set a place for Sarah. Sarah was very, very important. I now have another one. His name is Amos. But my parents were really wonderful about it. And this is in the 70s. The only thing was when we moved to this next house, which was the first time I saw a dark shadow, and it scared me. And I was about 5 years old.
Okay.
My dad, I ran up to him and I told him, and he said, Thea, you're going to be in school. You can't talk about this.
He told you to keep it
yeah,
low.
he said, people think you're crazy. I know it's true.
Wow.
My dad, he wouldn't do anything without asking me, did you have a dream? Have you seen anything?
Wow.
Before he did anything. He's even in my locket.
Oh, wow. Nice. I bet it felt really good. I bet it felt really good to receive the support and that belief from your parents. Because what happens, a lot of children, they're born into families that say, oh, no, don't do that stuff. You're, you know, you're talking to this. And that kind of brings me to the next question. There may be some people out there, you know, like who think that it's something, but it's really not. So what is it not? Like when we're talking about the paranormal, that's something that some people are probably wondering.
Well, I have an extra heightened sensory system.
Okay.
And really, we're all born with it. It just depends on how much of it you retain.
Okay.
And back to when I was little, when I was in first grade, knowing that I couldn't talk about any of the stuff, and I would get visions and I would see things. My teacher wanted me tested for epilepsy. She
wow.
thought I was having epileptic attacks, and I didn't have epilepsy. She was even angry that wasn't the reason, but I couldn't talk about, you know, what was actually going on.
Right.
Now, I'm human, so my accuracy is 95%. Anyone who tries to say that it's 100%, no. The only thing I've ever seen that's like that is what you do, numerology.
Okay.
Numerology is amazing and beautiful, and combined with what I do, it's wonderful. That's why when I met you that day, I thought, it was divine intervention, which the spirits will do that. I don't even have to try. They'll put me right where they want me to be.
Yeah, because for those of you who are listening, when me and Athea met, we were actually at Dragon Ferry. And she was talking to the owners about something, and it was very synchronicitous the way that we met, and the conversation that followed, and just the energy that was there. And I got her numbers to calculate. If you want, just tell me if you want me to just break it down a little, or you want.
You can.
Okay. Just the birthday. Just not the year, just the
August
month.
9th.
August 9th. So for those of you who are our listeners, she's born on the 9th of August. So 9 is the number of wisdom and integrity in working with the masses, working with the public. It's also the number of the humanitarian. the person who wants to help people and generally wants to be of service to all. And the month was July, you said?
August.
August. You said August, like from the south.
Well,
Like, so,
I'm
back
from
family.
the southeastern Ohio, so the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains.
That's
I'm
right.
a hillbilly.
Totally hear
Yeah.
that accent. It's beautiful. It reminds me of like a home cooked meal.
I can cook a heck of a home cooked meal.
Yeah.
On an open fire, even.
I bet you've had there's some pretty good barbecue out there too.
Oh yeah.
But that August, that's the 8th. So when we have the 8 plus that 9, that gives us 17. And what we have there is the individual, the one that's combined with 7 energy, which is spiritual, very spiritual in nature, and strives to look within and go deep.
I do that.
It's a very powerful vibration. It's very interesting that you happen to have those numbers in your chart.
I sometimes, because I'm so different, and that's okay. I'm fine with that. I love that. Even my name, my dad made sure I stood out. I know that I will do, even if they were my worst enemy, I would do what I could to save them. Even if they were cruel to me, I would do what I could. Even if I was so angry, I would still forgive them. No matter what, that's just me. When my mother-in-law, today we were talking, we were worried that the central air unit had caught on fire. And at one point at my mom's apartment building back in Ohio, it's 3 floors, I ran 3 flights of stairs through a smoky corridor to get her and her neighbor. I didn't know where the fire was. The firemen were in there trying to find it. I went right past all of them and got my mom and Dorotha. Of course, Dorotha's passed away now. She's in her transition, but
On the other side.
oh yeah, and I have no problem doing that.
Now, one thing that definitely sets you apart in a very powerful way is that when you were exposed to these things, these phenomena, when you first were born, or when you were younger, you may have been startled by it, but I know a lot of people that it happens to and they push it aside. If you could give a word of advice to people out there who are having these experiences and don't know exactly what it is, and they're kind of, oh no, I don't, what would you say?
Well, all of my children have abilities, and my oldest daughter, she's 27, and she tries to push it away. And what I've tried to teach her is, it's not a matter of pushing things away, it's a matter of slowly accepting yourself. Take the little bits and accept yourself, right? Just jot little things down and slowly work it into you accepting you, because that's what's going to help her in the long run.
Interesting. Because the way I've heard it put was, it's kind of like you have, it's kind of like a kid who got lost at the city fair, and he's looking for his parents, and he doesn't know where to go, and he just sees, okay, I'm going to go to them because they're the only one who can see me. And so they're going to go to that person.
The medium part, when the people have transitioned and I see them that way, yeah. I literally, and I can talk about this case, Tracy. This was a long time ago, actually way before I even met James, and I volunteered at a community center. Her husband had been killed in a car accident. And she didn't know me, but her friend who owned the community center and ran it for her mother who had passed away, she knew what I could do. And she had handed me the camera with the accident photos, and that's all it took. That's all it took. And I couldn't say anything because this had only been a week or 2 since he passed. She didn't know me, and I knew in time she would contact me. And in time, she did contact me. But before that ever happened, at one point, I was sitting on the stairs, and Tracy was on the other side calling for her daughter who had just went to go to the bathroom, and she wasn't more than 2.5 years old maybe. And when she had come downstairs and I was right in between of them, I looked over at Tracy, and there was Shorty, her husband, and he was yelling at me because I could see him.
Wow, yeah.
And my ex-husband, who was a skeptic for the longest time, later on he wasn't. He finally had enough. Yeah. He said, he at one point when I was going there to work, he said, I don't know who he is, but I seen this spirit jumping from roof to roof, following the car all the way when I was coming to get you at work.
He said that?
Uh-huh. And I said, oh, okay. I knew who it was. He was determined. It was 4 months later when Tracy contacted me.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm kind of interested in knowing what James' birthday means.
So what's your birthday, James? Just
It is.
you don't have to tell us the year, but just
It's May 14th.
May 4. Oh man, that's awesome. You're born on what's 1 plus 4?
5.
Cool, man. I'm born on the 5th too, and this hat is 23. 2 plus 3 is 5. So for our listeners, 14th, and what was the month again?
May.
May. Oh, look, 5. That was the first day that I aired the show, was on the 5th of May. So 9 days before your birthday. It was on a 5-day and a 5-month. So those of you listening, use your numbers on your days. Use your numbers according to the days. So, because Donovan just pointed at me and he said 5 minutes. So look, that's 5 again. So for check out repeating 5s when you get off of this, after the show's done. But what it means, 1 and 4 is the individual. 1 is always dealing with the individual, the self, and situations revolving the ego, not necessarily in a good or bad way, but just issues of self-worth, confidence, creativity, being able to be independent and focused. But now this 1 energy has its focus on the number 4, which is dealing with structures in our life. So it's the self that's focused on the structures, the regimentation, the planning. 4 is a very technical, logical number, very methodical, concrete, earth. So you have the 1, which is fire element also, and then you have the 4, which is earth. So here a person is able to take physical matter and breathe fire into it, technology, and it also stands for media as well, coincidentally.
That sounds like him completely.
And then the 1 and the 4, when we add those two, we get the number 5, and 5 is all about motion, movement, travel, freedom, and those energies that are associated with that. So here we're talking about someone born on the 14th, someone who is the self, focused on structure, stability, that generates freedom. You see. He
asked me to marry him in a haunted mansion.
There
it was wonderful.
Totally things that a 14 would do, you know. I mean, my friend, he did that last week. He asked somebody, hey, I'm going to go to a haunted house first. But that's awesome. Awesome touch right there. How long ago was it?
It was back in 2010.
2010, nice.
Congratulations. We had 2 weddings.
We did.
One, my late grandfather. The first one, my late grandfather.
He officially officiated the wedding.
Okay.
And then the second time, our friends got together and they married us over in Volcano, here in California. And it was nice.
Just a nice thing.
The Andy Kopic officiated. And he's been on Ghost Adventures and developed a lot of paranormal equipment. And his wife, she was my maid of honor. And then Scott Grunwald, his wife and sister were also maids of honor of mine. But Scott, he was on a show called Paranormal Paparazzi for a little while. And he walked me down the aisle.
Oh, wow.
So we had a really, really cool wedding and then a masquerade party afterwards.
Okay.
And one of the best parts of that ceremony was that we all met in the dark
Wow.
because of what we do.
That's epic. That's epic. You know what, man? I'm picking this up that some of our listeners want to hear about the equipment that you use. We don't have a time to go into it right now, but hopefully we can have you back at a later date on a future segment.
That would be wonderful.
And,
That would be wonderful.
We could hear a little bit more about what's some of the equipment that you use and how it works and exactly where you position it and stuff like that. I'm sure that they would love to hear about that.
That sounds wonderful.
But for our listeners, how can they get in contact with you?
You can find me on Facebook. My name is spelled very odd. And if you look me up on Google, you'll only find me. It's spelled Atheuth. And that's Athea, Paris.
Okay, awesome.
And same with her. You can find me on Facebook. I think it's facebook.com/James P. Jr. If not there, then of course Paris Normal 2010. Under the Moon Paranormal Research. You can message me, or
He's much
especially
better
her.
knowing that stuff than
Tech
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
He's like, you're killing your phone, Thea. You're killing your
Yeah.
phone. You don't do updates. You don't do this. You don't do...
Clean the cache.
Okay. Now it gets real. Okay. Unload the truth. All right, guys. So thanks for tuning in. That's our show for today. We're going to call it a day and tune in next week for Divine Numerology at 3 on Friday. And message me if you have any questions. Call me. Number is 209-898-4103, or you can message me on Facebook. I will talk to you soon. Book a session so we can go in depth on your numbers, and we will talk to you then. Peace.
Well, thank you.